Pavlova. It's a fun word to say, isn't it? It sounds light, airy, and delicate. Imagine taking a bite of a cloud made of meringue, whipped cream, and fresh fruit. It's fancy but surprisingly easy to make. I'll show you how to create your own Pavlova masterpiece step by step. Are you ready to discover the magic of Pavlova? Let's get started. This amazing dessert is named after the famous Russian ballerina Anna Pavlova. It has a history as rich and interesting as its flavor. Two countries, Australia and New Zealand, both say that they invented Pavlova. Some people believe it was first made in a hotel in Wellington, New Zealand, to honor the ballerina when she visited in 1926. Others say that a similar dessert existed in Australia a few years earlier. No matter where it really came from, Pavlova is now a very important part of both countries' food culture. Let's learn more about the history of this fascinating dessert. Imagine this, it's the 1920s and everyone is amazed by Anna Pavlova, a graceful Russian ballerina. People loved her performances, she moved so lightly she seemed to float across the stage. Now imagine a dessert created just for her, as light and elegant as she was. Anna Pavlova was born in 1881 in St. Petersburg, Russia. She joined the Imperial Russian Ballet when she was very young. During her 1926 trip to Australia and New Zealand, someone created the dessert we now call Pavlova in her honor. The dessert, with its delicate meringue, crispy crust, and soft center, perfectly captures the spirit of the legendary ballerina. The story of Pavlova wouldn't be complete without talking about the friendly rivalry between Australia and New Zealand. New Zealand says that Pavlova was invented in 1926 by a chef at a hotel in Wellington. Australia says that a recipe for meringue with fruit filling appeared in an Australian magazine in 1922. This recipe, although not called Pavlova, looks a lot like the dessert we know today. Some people believe that Pavlova came from an older dessert, the German Schaumtorte. This theory suggests that Pavlova might be a mix of different cultures' desserts. To find out where Pavlova really came from, we need to look at old cookbooks and newspapers. One of the earliest recipes that looks like Pavlova is in a 1906 cookbook called the Rural Home Journal. This recipe, called strawberry sponge, uses a meringue base topped with whipped cream and strawberries. By the 1920s, recipes like meringue cake and Australian meringue were in both Australian and New Zealand cookbooks. An important Australian recipe from 1929 describes a Pavlova cake made with a meringue base, whipped cream, and passion fruit. This recipe makes people think that Australia might be where Pavlova really came from. Even though people still argue about where it came from, people all over the world love to eat Pavlova. Everyone loves its amazing taste, how you can change it, and how special it makes any occasion feel. From big birthday parties to casual backyard barbecues, Pavlova makes every table look beautiful with its delicate flavors. You can put anything you want on top of its meringue base, making it fun to experiment with different flavors. Whether you add classic whipped cream and berries or fancy fruits, Pavlova always impresses. It's a dessert that has been served at countless family gatherings, holiday meals, and special events. Okay everyone, are you ready to put on your aprons and start cooking with me? First, we need the star of the show, the meringue. We'll need 4 large egg whites. Make sure your eggs are at room temperature so they can be whipped into those perfect peaks. Next is the sweetener, 1 cup of castor sugar, which dissolves easily into the egg whites. A pinch of salt will balance the sweetness, and a teaspoon of pure vanilla extract adds warmth. To make it stable, we'll add a tablespoon of corn flour and a teaspoon of white vinegar. Now that our ingredients are ready, let's make the most important part of the Pavlova, the meringue. Preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Celsius, and cover a baking sheet with parchment paper. Get your stand mixer or a large bowl and whisk. Add the egg whites and salt. Start whisking on low speed until the egg whites become frothy and opaque. Slowly add the sugar 1 tablespoon at a time, making sure each spoonful is mixed in completely. Adding the sugar slowly helps it dissolve completely, which gives us a smooth and glossy meringue. Use a spatula to carefully spread the meringue into a circle shape, about 9 inches across. Make a small dip in the center of the meringue using the back of a spoon. Now that our meringue is ready, turn the oven down to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Celsius. Gently put the baking sheet into the oven and bake for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. The meringue should be light golden brown and have a firm dry crust. Once it's done baking, turn off the oven and let the pavlova cool completely inside the oven. Cooling it down slowly is very important to prevent cracks and make sure the outside is crispy and the inside is soft like a marshmallow. While the pavlova cools, let's get our toppings ready. The best thing about pavlova is that you can add any toppings you like. For a classic pavlova, we'll use lightly sweetened whipped cream and fresh fruits that are in season. For the whipped cream, you'll need 1½ cups of heavy whipping cream and 1/4 cup of icing sugar. Beat the cream until it forms soft peaks, being careful not to overbeat it. For the fruit, a mix of sliced strawberries, raspberries, and blueberries looks beautiful. Feel free to try other fruits like kiwi, passion fruit, or pomegranate seeds. Our pavlova is cooled, the whipped cream is ready, and the fruit is prepped. It's time to assemble our masterpiece. Carefully move the cooled pavlova to a serving plate. Spoon big dollops of whipped cream onto the center, making a fluffy cloud shape. Arrange the fruit on top of the whipped cream, making a beautiful and colorful design. For an extra touch, drizzle some passion fruit juice or a homemade berry sauce over the fruit. Finally, dust a little icing sugar on top for elegance. Now let's talk about meringue. It's the heart of our pavlova, the base for our culinary masterpiece. Making the meringue perfectly is important for getting that crispy crust and soft inside. Think of egg whites as tiny bubbles waiting to be filled with air. When we whisk them, we're putting air inside, making that light and airy texture. Sugar helps to keep those bubbles from popping, making the meringue stronger. The vinegar or lemon juice helps to break down the protein in the egg whites, creating a smoother, more stable foam. When you lift your whisk, the meringue should form stiff, glossy peaks that don't fall over. Section 2. Temperature troubles, avoiding common meringue mishaps. Now let's talk about temperature. Temperature is very important when making meringue. Getting it right means the difference between a pavlova that's light and airy, and one that's flat and dense. One of the most common mistakes is using cold eggs. Remember those tiny bubbles we talked about? Well, cold eggs have smaller bubbles, which means they won't take in as much air when whisked. Always use room temperature eggs for your meringue. This helps the protein relax, making it easier to whip them into a stable foam. If you don't have much time, you can put the eggs in a bowl of warm water for a few minutes to warm them up quickly. Another problem is humidity. High humidity can ruin meringue, making it sticky and hard to whip. If it's a humid day, try using a dehumidifier in your kitchen or wait for a drier day to make your pavlova. And lastly, let's talk about oven temperature. Baking at a low temperature slowly is important for getting that perfect pavlova texture. High heat will make the meringue brown too quickly and can make it chewy instead of crispy. Sugar isn't just for sweetness, my dears, it's also really important for making the meringue strong. Adding the sugar slowly while whisking lets it dissolve smoothly and evenly, making a smooth and glossy meringue. Dumping all the sugar in at once can be too much for the egg whites, making it grainy. Now, a little secret: try using superfine caster sugar. Its fine crystals dissolve more easily into the egg whites, resulting in a silkier, more refined meringue. Timing is everything when it comes to meringue. Whisking the egg whites for the right amount of time is crucial for achieving those stiff peaks we're after. Under-whisked meringue will be loose and runny, while over-whisked meringue can become dry and crumbly. As a general rule, whisk the egg whites until they hold stiff, glossy peaks that stand straight up when you lift the whisk. This usually takes about 8 to 10 minutes with a stand mixer or a little longer with a hand mixer. Even if you're careful, sometimes meringue doesn't turn out right. But don't worry, I'm here to help you fix some common meringue problems and save your pavlova. If your meringue is runny or weeping, it could be because of a few things. One possibility is that there was fat in your mixing bowl or on your whisk. Even a tiny bit of yolk or oil can stop the egg whites from whipping properly. To avoid this, make sure your mixing bowl and whisk are perfectly clean and dry. You can wipe them with a little lemon juice or vinegar before adding the egg whites to remove any grease. Another reason could be under-whisking. If the egg whites haven't been whisked to stiff peaks, they won't be strong enough, and the meringue may weep. To fix this, just keep whisking until you get those stiff peaks. If your meringue is still giving you trouble, don't give up. You can try adding a teaspoon of corn flour to the egg whites along with the sugar. Corn flour helps to absorb extra moisture and prevent weeping. Now let's talk about toppings. The best part of any pavlova, the part that transforms this simple meringue into a beautiful and delicious dessert. And when it comes to pavlova toppings, you can be as creative as you like. But for me, there's nothing better than fresh, seasonal fruit. Imagine this, a cloud of crisp meringue, its golden edges reminding you of the warm oven. Now, cover it with a generous amount of freshly whipped cream, its vanilla scent making your mouth water. And finally the best part, a beautiful mix of colorful berries, their sweet and tart juices tasting like summer sunshine. Strawberries, with their bright, slightly tangy sweetness, are perfect with the delicate sweetness of the meringue. Raspberries add a bit of tartness and a hint of floral fragrance, while blueberries offer a juicy burst of color and a slightly stronger sweetness. And don't forget about kiwi. Its bright green color and tangy sweetness add a wonderful contrast to the other berries. Thinly sliced and arranged carefully, it looks like a work of art on top of your pavlova. The classic berry combination is always delicious, but don't be afraid to try other fruits too. Pavlova is incredibly versatile, and you can put all sorts of flavors on it. For a tropical taste, try topping your pavlova with slices of juicy mango and passion fruit pulp. The mango's sweet honey flavor goes perfectly with the passion fruit's tangy, aromatic seeds, creating a flavor combination that's both exotic and refreshing. If you're feeling adventurous, try citrus fruits like ruby red grapefruit or thinly sliced blood oranges. Their tart, slightly bitter taste contrasts nicely with the sweetness of the meringue and whipped cream, making your dessert more sophisticated. And let's not forget about the different seasons. In the fall, enjoy the flavors of autumn with slices of ripe pear and a drizzle of honey. Winter calls for the warming spices of poached plums and a sprinkle of cinnamon, while spring is perfect for the delicate sweetness of fresh figs and a scattering of pistachios. We've talked about fruit toppings, but now let's talk about adding those extra special touches that make your pavlova even more amazing. Think of these as the finishing touches on your masterpiece. The details that make it uniquely yours. One of my favorite ways to add more flavor and texture is to use toasted nuts. Scattered over the fruit or sprinkled around the base of the pavlova, toasted almonds, pecans, or hazelnuts add a delicious crunch and a nutty flavor. For the ultimate treat, drizzle melted dark chocolate over the assembled pavlova, letting it flow down the sides of the meringue like a chocolate waterfall. The bitterness of the dark chocolate balances out the sweetness of the other ingredients, creating a sophisticated and satisfying flavor combination. And for a final touch of elegance, consider adding a sprinkle of edible flowers. Pansies, violas, and nasturtiums add a touch of beauty and a subtle floral fragrance, transforming your pavlova into a true work of art. So there you have it, my friends. The story of pavlova, from its mysterious beginnings to the endless possibilities it offers for creative baking. It's a dessert that's perfect for special occasions, a blank canvas for your imagination, and a timeless classic that people all over the world love. We've explored the debate about where it came from, the science behind making the perfect meringue, and the endless variety of toppings that can make it a feast for both your eyes and your taste buds. From the classic elegance of fresh berries to the exotic flavors of tropical fruits, and the decadent touch of melted chocolate, the possibilities are truly endless. But pavlova is more than just a pretty dessert. It's about the joy of sharing, the pleasure of making something beautiful with your own hands, and the way a simple recipe can bring back memories and connect generations. So go ahead, my friends, and experience the magic of pavlova. Experiment with flavors, play with textures, and create your own special masterpiece. And most importantly, share your creation with the people you love, because the best part of baking is sharing it with others.